Alright, today's reading is the Transportation System Sector Specific Plan 2015 Homeland Security, U.S. United States Department of Transportation. Alright, your table of contents. You'd have your preface, executive summary, introduction with the sector visions and missions. 3 would be sector overview, sector risk, sector partners and stakeholders. 3 cross sector issues. 4 sector goals and priorities. 5 achieving sector goals, risk management. 5.2 critical infrastructure and national preparedness. 6 measuring effectiveness. Alright, and then they got your pre-dates, and we're going to read the executive summary real quick. The purpose of the 2015 Transportation System Sector Specific Plan is to guide and integrate with the secure strength, resilience of the transportation infrastructure to describe how the transportation sector here and are referred to as the sector contributes to overall security resilience of the nation's critical infrastructure set forth by the Presidential Policy Directive 21. Critical infrastructure security resilience, or the Transportation System Sector Specific Plan, tailors the specific guidance provided by the National Infrastructure Protection Plan 2013, partnering for the Critical Infrastructure Security Resiliency National Infrastructure Protection Plan 2013, to the unique operation conditions and risk landscape of the nation's varied transportation system. The Transportation System Sector Specific Plan represents the collaborative effort of the federal departments, agencies, state, local, the tribal, the territorial governments, non-governmental organizations, public, private, the critical infrastructure owners, operators, achieve the shared goals, project priorities, reduce critical infrastructure risk, and reflect the maturation of sector partnership of the maturation of the sector partnership, the progress made with the sector since 2010, transportation system sector Pacific Plan, evolving risk as well as operating policy and environment. So this policy described as appropriate to manage the security resilience efforts for the enhancing efficiency with the capability of sector resources, sector government, with the industry partner with the transportation system, encompasses diverse interconnected networks fixed with the mobile assets for to provide essential services with the national livelihood with the economic prosperity. The sector's mission with its continuously improve the sector with the resiliency posture of the nation's transportation system in order to ensure safety, secure with the travelers and goods. Its vision is secure with the resiliency of the transportation system and engage legitimate travelers good to move without significant disruption of the commerce of the undue fear of harm or loss of civil liberties. Transportation system provide lifeline services with the combined with the are virtually important with the response with the recovery operative with the visual vast networks of the public and the private, the critical infrastructure ownership operators, infrastructure services of the management, the extensive of the independence with the transportation mode of the other sectors indicate the need for the coordinating and the planning with the investment of to manage all hazards and efficiency and effective of the government and even the transportation critical infrastructure the owners and operators share the responsibility for managing security, resiliency, secondary infrastructure system and identification critical transportation infrastructure required with the consideration federal, state, regional, local jurisdiction interests as verified hazards at the national level, the critical infrastructure, each of the sector four subsectors: aviation, maritime, service, and postal and shipping, contributing to the national security, economic stability, with the public health and safety at the regional, state, and local level. The critically infrastructure is primarily determined by the business, lifestyle, and emergency needs of the community. The secure transportation system for the risk of the natural disaster, man-made threat security with the managers conducted with the assessment of the physical, human, and cyber elements of the critical infrastructure. Cyber-related risks are increasingly concerned with the transportation operation becomes more reliant on these technologies. Transportation also sensitive, risk-independent sectors, the chemical, communication, critical manufacture, damage, the defensive, the industrial base, emergency services for the energy, food, agricultural, information technology, water, wastewater systems. In addition, with the national reliance of the foreign market for the international mobility of the global supply chains require the consideration risk of the critical international transportation infrastructure. Multiple federal departments, private entities within corporation with the Department of State contribute to the development of the security of the protocol of the international agreement of the regulatory body with the International Maritime Organization, World Custom Organization, with the International Civil Aviation Organization, and the Universal Postal Union. The Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Transportation, with the sector of the specific agency with the of the President Policy Directive 21, jointly prepared with the Transportation System Sector Specific sector plan in the collaboration sector partners. The plan defined with the roles and responsibility of the government of the private industry, purpose, goal of the private is to achieve activities, manage risk, and for the contribute of the national sector, resiliency of the national your National Infrastructure Protection Plan 2013. All right, your transportation system sector specific plan identifies the following goals. Goal 1, management of the security risk of the physical, human, cyber elements of critical transportation of the infrastructure. Goal 2, employ the sector responsible for the recovery, the coordination, capability of the sort of whole community resilience. And see, goal 3, implement process with effective collaboration to share the mission essential information with access across the sector jurisdiction discipline as well between public and private stakeholders. Goal 4, enhance all hazards with the prepared resiliency of the global transportation system, safeguard U.S. national interests. The sector apply with the National Infrastructure Protection Plan with the risk management of the framework for the understanding of the management of the security resiliency. The sector employ with a variety of the assessment tools, exercise the analysis plans to risk-based security resiliency priorities. The identify the activities achieved. These priorities, the transportation system sector specifically identify the 24 activities include the specific action thrust of the draft of the National Infrastructure Protection Plan 2013, calls to action, joint national priorities, and the selected activities of the President Policy Directive number 8. National preparedness to develop the core capability of the protection, prevention, mitigation, response for the recovery permission for the national preparedness system. The transportation sector specific plan identifies the activity can include the conceptual approach of the qualitative, the quantitative, the measure of the effectiveness, official responsibility, implementing the activity should initiate the approach of the measure and effectiveness. 2. Introduction. The policy President Policy Directive 21 named the 16 critical infrastructure sector of the executive department responsibility overseeing the security resiliency. Each sector of the director designed with the Department of Homeland Security data with the SSA. Transportation System Sector of the Department of Homeland and its co-SSA responsibilities to the Transportation Security Administration, United States Coast Guard, with the Transportation Security Administration, U.S. Coast Guard, jointly perform the co-SSA function steering group of the leadership of the government coordinated councils with the closing among the SSA partnership that ensure the federal representation security partners. All right, President Policy Directive 21 recognizes the importance and effectiveness of the partnership with critical infrastructure owner of the operative of the SLTT. And needs to require the Department of Homeland Security National Infrastructure Protection Plan with the National Infrastructure Protection Plan 2013 partnering for critical infrastructure security resiliency, provide the model facility of public and private partnership with the government coordinated councils, receive the achievement of the development of voluntary security with the resiliency initiative with the private sector critical infrastructure owners of the operative of the sector coordinated councils. There are 7 such partnerships serve with the key communities of the sector and in the sector identified in Section 3. The Council enhances the mutual awareness understanding of sector resiliency, shared intelligence, risk information developed, the recommended the practice security partnership, determine the risk-based priority of the development of the joint plans for the effective decision, use of resources as well as the coordinated shared responsibility. Sector security partners will include the federal departments and agencies, the SLTT, state, local, tribal and territorial governments, non-governmental organization, public and private, the critical infrastructure owner of the operative, the collaborative with the transportation system sector-specific plan, which describe the shared goals, priorities of the activity mitigated with the critical infrastructure. The plan builds of the progress made in the sector since the 2010 transportation system sector specific plan that addresses the evolving risk and operating policy and environment of the transportation sector system. Specific sector plan also sector specific plan also consider the core capabilities of the 5 national NPS's missions. 5 NPS missions are prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. The transportation system sector Pacific Plan updates the sector cybersecurity efforts with the line with the government and the concern with the cyber threats of their consequent plans to advance of the implementation primary presidential cybersecurity initiatives and executive order 1363-6 enhancing critical infrastructure cybersecurity. The transportation system sector specific plan also incorporated the elements of the 2014 National Strategic Transportation Security with the strategy with the governing document sector federal counterterrorism effort to develop and cancellation with the transportation industry, government labor representative that manage security risk with the transportation asset with the interest of the national security commerce with the must be protected for the act disruption of the terrorists of the hostile forces. The strategy is if the primary source of the sector related with the programming transportation security system sector specific plan, which which includes the program and security resiliency for all hazards, man-made and natural. In 2015, the 2015 transportation sector-specific plan does not create and alter or impede ability of the federal department agencies to perform responsibilities under law. This plan does not create any right or benefit of substantial procedure, enforce law, or any equity against the United States in its departments, agencies, other entities, officers, employees, and any other person. Section 2.1. The sector vision and mission. The sector support the physical and cyber security with the resiliency objective of the policy, President Policy Directive of the 221 and National Infrastructure Protection Plan of 2013. The sector mission identified the unifying purpose of the public and private sector of the partnership to sustain the accomplishment of the mission is to enable the sector to realize the vision. Your sector vision. A sector resilient transportation system enabling legitimate travelers' goods to move without significant disruption, commerce, and undue fear of harm and loss of civil liberties. Sector mission. Continuous improvement of the security, resiliency, posture for the nation's transportation system in order to ensure the safety and security of the travelers' goods. 3. Sector overview. Transportation sector file. Owners operate. Public and private companies operate with the sector critical infrastructure that may be primarily responsibility. Secondary resilience of the other operation operator. Owners conduct the risk assessment development plans. Improve the risk management development. Conduct the training exercise. Owners operate as volunteer practice over the government establish priorities and coordinate with the activities optimal effectiveness and efficiency. Alright, and then it shows these graphics. Alright, 3.1. Sector risk. The risk of the critical transportation infrastructure include the natural disaster as well as the man-made, the physical, the cyber threats, the man-made threats include terrorism, vandalism, theft, technology failures, accident, the cyber threats for the security are concerning bases because of the growing resilience of the cyber-based control, navigation, tracking, position, communication system, as well as DCEs and the malicious actors that can exploit with the cyber system and servicing transportation. 3.1. Terrorism. A terrorism attack, whether physical or cyber, is going to significantly disrupt the vital transportation system for the long-term sociological, economic consequence of the risk of the terror acts with the transportation infrastructure is typically associated with the UV attacking scenarios to evaluate the threat. The vulnerabilities and consequence of the Department of Homeland Security agencies use a variety of the methods of assessing the risk. These transportation security risk assets are annually updated with the scenario driven with the evaluation risk of the aviation, mass transit, the freight rail, highway, motor carrier with the pipeline modes. For example, the Transportation Security Risk Assessment 4.0 concludes that the aviation mode with the highest risk of the terrorist attack compared to the others modes. The Transportation Sector Security Risk Assessment does not include the nuclear threat scenario because of the Radiological Nuclear Terrorism Risk Assessment led by the Department of Homeland Security Domestic Nuclear Detection Office, specifically focused on the radiological and nuclear risk. United States Coast Guard Maritime Security Risk Analysis mode with the terrorism risk management tool, a national maritime security risk analyst module supporting U.S. Coast Guard strategic plan efforts. The maritime security risk analyst model also informs the variety of port and waterway security risk and decision result of the response. Decision makers need the data of situational assumption change. Alright, 3.1.2, aging infrastructure. The condition of the national transportation infrastructure with a particular concern with the advanced age deterioration of many structural with the national transportation network, the aging of the infrastructure that threatens the resilience of the system, can multiply the risk of other factors such as man-made natural disasters, effective natural disaster, for example, can be much worse than combined with the aging and infrastructure, the impact with the loss of the key node, with the asset of the bridge, with the pillows that immediately, with the use of the causing of the hazardous impact to the passenger freight movement of potential large-scale impacts such as the supply chain disruption. 3.1.3, natural disaster, global climate change, exchange of weather event. The natural disaster risk of the transportation system include the earthquakes, fire, water, flooding, extreme weathering and such as blizzard, hurricane, tornadoes, droughts, all of which have the potential widespread disruption of the transportation system. Risk of the natural disasters varying regional, local relevance because of the prevailing weather patterns and geological trends, the topographical features, and population density. Studies such as the U.S. National Climate Assessment link certain extreme weather events with the climate change of these events that become more frequently exacerbated with existing vulnerabilities within our nation, the aging transportation infrastructure. The third National Climate Assessment released in 2014 found that the rise in the sea level, the heavy downpours, and extreme heat are damaging infrastructure, but the vulnerabilities damage of the projected to increase in continued climate change. Finding in the sector include the rise in sea level coupled with the storm surge will include the risk of the major coastal with the impact of the transportation infrastructure, including temporary permanent flooding of airports, ports, harbors, railroads, rail lines, tunnels, and bridges. Extreme weather events currently disrupt transportation networks in all areas of the country. The projection would indicate that such disruption will increase. Climate change impacts will increase the total cost of the national transportation system, and its users, but these impacts can be reduced with a variety of the adaptive actions. 3.2. Sector partners and stakeholders. Sector partners, individual group of the organization have the responsibility for the sector resiliency with the sector's assessment system, the network, federal, state, local, the tribal, territorial, and foreign governmental entities, critical infrastructure owner and operator. The regional organizational coalitions are responsible for critical infrastructure security and resiliency. Academic, professional entity, the international organizational, nonprofit, employee, representative organization, voluntary organization, and public are important community stakeholders. Sector engaged with the partner of the collaborative process to determine sector goals, priorities, and risk of the methodologies to relate with the physical, human, and cyber elements of critical transportation infrastructure. Alright, 3.2. 1. Sector-specific agencies. Sector-specific agency responsible as stated with the National Infrastructure Protection Plan of 2013 include the engaging partners in appropriate process to collaborate with the Department of Homeland Security for the other federal department agency, collaborate with the critical infrastructure owner, operate with the independent regulatory, state, local, tribal, territorial entities, serve for the day-to-day federal interface with the dynamic prioritization, coordinate with the sector activities, carry out incidental management responsibilities consistent with the statutory authority other than appropriate policy directives and regulations, provide support, facilitate the technical assistance consultation with the sector to identify the vulnerabilities, help mitigate instances as appropriate, support the security of the Homeland Security through statutory required reporting requirements by the providing annual basis of the sector-specific critical infrastructure information. Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security National Protection Program Directorate administrators various roles of the responsibility of the policy President Policy Directive of the 21. In addition, the U.S. Customs Border Protection Federal Emergency Management Agency contributed with the significant transportation security resiliency mission that is delegated with the Department of Homeland Security sector-specific agencies responsible for the Transportation Security Administration, U.S. Coast Guard, and have unique responsibility described below. Transportation Security Administration. The Aviation Transportation Security Act and the Transportation Security Act of the Transportation Security Administration with the federal responsibility for the security of all the modes of the Transportation Security Administration. Transportation Security Administration directs the responsibility of the maritime security of the support of the U.S. Coast Guard with its broad statutory authority of the responsibility for the maritime security with the resiliency in addition the Transportation Security Administration consults with the collaborative directive of the various statute with the performing these duties. United States Coast Guard. With the United States Coast Guard primarily responsible for the safety, security, with the environmental protection of maritime downtown, and include the enforcing of the custom and the mitigation of low laws at sea, with the managing of the response of the incident, of the impact of the federal navigable waters or ports, of coordinate with the expects with the recovery of the maritime transportation system. U.S. Coast Guard gave the responsibility through the network of 43 area maritime security clearance communities in each captain port zone with the area maritime security communities are cornerstone of security with the national support with the in addition U.S. Coast Guard benefit the contribution several advisory committees, other industry engagement forums. Department of Transportation. The Department of Transportation offers the intelligence security with the emergency response for the oversee with the administrator of the Department of Transportation Code, specific agency roles and responsibility, office for the coordinating with the closely with the DINE, operating and administration, directly managed with the transportation program, the security, resiliency, critical transportation infrastructure, mission for the ensure the safe and efficiency, acceptable the transportation system that meets the interests of the enhancing of the quality of life of the American people that meets the challenge of the grants for regulation, enforcement, research and development, and the other means. Under the National Response Framework with the Department of Transportation lead agency with the coordinator with the Federal Transportation Activity during the emergency, and in addition with the Department of Transportation support for the other agency response to recovery operations. Alright, 3.2. Management of sector responsibility. Sector of the coast, site-specific agency that is responsible to maintain the update with the transportation site-specific program collaboratively on a 4-year cycle with the coast site-specific agencies. Also lead with the transportation site-specific plan annual view with the sector stakeholders within update with the necessary of the coast site-specific agency with a walkthrough of the Department of Homeland Infrastructure Protection IP to publish the amendments in the area as appropriate. The coast-specific agencies annually evaluate the progress they implement with the transportation system site-specific plan, report the progress for the Department of Homeland Security and Infrastructure Protection to support the development of critical infrastructure national annual report. All right, 323, the Sector Partnership. The National Infrastructure Protection Program and the 2013 Sector Partnership with the collaborating with the public and the private partnership to promote the security, resilience, the physical, cyber, critical infrastructure of the federal, of the state, local, the tribal, the territorial government in partnership with the contributor with the sector management, the multiple forms, fair example, the sector and subsector of the GCC provided the formal channel for the government partner for the divide of the co-sector agency with regarding the cross-sector security, resiliency, dependency, coordinate with the program, the infrastructure for the compatible gaps. Your GCC also provided the gateway to receive and divide for the critical infrastructure owner for the operative with the manager of the subsector for the model of the SCCs. The sector partnership with the model also facilitates information exchange between the government and representative of the federal and state, local, tribal, territorial, tribal, with critical infrastructure owner and operator, include with those numerous conferences for the meeting, workshop, the roundtable, the security of Homeland Security, establish critical infrastructure partnership advisory council, in accordance with the 2001 Homeland Security Section 201 Homeland Security Act of 2002 to allow the industry to provide the advised consensus position of the federal government in recognition of the sensitive nature subject matter involved in the Critical Infrastructure Partner Advisory Council with the Secretary of the Critical Infrastructure Partners Advisory Council from a federal advisory committee. All right, the sector of the site-specific agencies have established the joint working groups of the collaboration, research, and development of cybersecurity. The sector sector-specific agency for the coordinator with the group of the risk assessment analysis for the information sharing and metrics. Partnership approach must be legislative requirement of the collaboration among the government with the industry, part of the cost of the ensure the effective of the information exchange, with the set of the priorities, develop effective solutions to protection, resiliency, risk. Information sharing with analysis, standards, support with the sector, foster for the collaboration between the government and the private stakeholders. The partnership mechanisms allow for the protection of the following information, government, private sectors on a daily basis. All right, 3.3 cross-sector issue. 3.3.1 information sharing with fundamental underpinning of the public-private engagement and commitment with the ongoing information sharing with the contact with the next national resiliency condition functional with the transportation infrastructure assets infrastructure rest of the fulfillment of the commitment of the sector aimed at the bolster of the national all-hazard resilience through the continued attention for the creating and integrating with improving the information shared with the network and the practices. The sector's goals are consistent with those of the 2014 report of the Congress of the Transportation Security Information Sharing Environment, or TSIS. Plan required for the intelligence reform of the Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004. As amended, the goal of the Transportation Security Information Sharing Environment include multiple direction sharing, effective and efficient, multiple direction sharing, effective and efficient process, trusted partnership, security, education, training, and awareness, protecting privacy and civil liberties. A sector required for the effective and efficient, protective of the receiving and analyzing, disseminating of the timely threat with the domain and awareness information, the process of the sector involved with the extensive of the communication with the federal community, with the public and private stakeholder, the effective of the protection, with the response that relies, provided with the stakeholder, the great risk of the real time and the near real time, and all alerts of the merging of the breaking events, accurately update with the information distribution list, are essential elements effective the process to continue to improve the performance of the sector, information sharing with the mechanism of the site-specific agencies are encouraging the stakeholder, the critical information products for the contact site-specific agencies about the air. About as improvements are at federal level, the numerous information sharing chemical channels, public provide private and public stakeholders, classified and unclassified briefing assessment summary. Stakeholders may report the security concerns, safety issues, suspicious incident, federal government through a number of hotlines and tip lines, such as if you see something, go say something campaign, General Aviation Security Hotline, the Transportation Security Administration Contact Center, Department of Transportation Report Safety Violation, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Hotline, U.S. Coast Guard National Response Center, America's Waterway Watch, and First Observers Program. All right, 332, cybersecurity. Cyber-based technology, transportation, operation enable the greater economies and efficiency with improving the customer service, the enhancement of the operational control, to provide better security capability for the consequence, and consequently, the transportation companies increasingly depend on the cyber system for the business, for the security of the operational function of the cyber technologies upon the transportation service, reliable, that include position, navigation, tracking, shipping, and routing with the industrial system, control of the access, with the control of the signal, communications, data, and business management. The technologies are often interconnected through the network of the remote access for the terminal, which may allow the malicious actors It's easier to access the key nodes of the continuing operation system resilience following the disaster with an increasing depending on the recovery of the cyber system. 3.3. Research and develop. The sector has enhanced the transportation security resilience identified applying with existing and emerging technology, process with addressing the current capability of the technology, enhancing with the lead of the operational efficiency, often reduce cost sector, and identify the gap of security resilience capability of the aviation research and development work groups. For the example, the Surface Transportation Research and Development work group for the include the representation site-specific agencies and public and private sector partnership. The primary means to identify with the capability of the surface removal, identify with the capability gap at the basis for the developing research development project requirements, funding of the organization, Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology, Training, Transportation Security Administration, and DOT will consider the sector of the research development and with the figure framework 2 with the describe the process of the sector partnership with the jointly identify with the refined capability gaps submitted with the prioritized recommendation funding of the organization considered for the budget process. Within the maritime sector, the United States Coast Guard gather gaps across the U.S. Coast Guard enterprise, which include the Coast Guard program, the offices within directly with the indirectly support with the maritime subsector, activity frontline, port level, the U.S. Coast Guard operation, office of research activity, receiving the funding of the level of force, the U.S. Coast Guard research and development components, have the equity of the maritime subsector cooperative research and development agreements of the maritime and industrial partners, the S&T research and development partnership with the Homeland Security Advanced Research Project. Agency of the Department of Homeland Security used the assessment framework to prioritize based on the potential impact of the risk. Our Sector 4, goals and priorities. Sector partnership to identify with the following goals and priorities in line with the National Infrastructure Protection Plan of 2013 and JNPs. See detail appendix B. Alright, 5. Achieving sector goals. Risk management. Risk is the potential for the adversity of the outcome of the event with the determinant of the event of the threats, vulnerability, consequence of the sector assessed. This is the managed security resilience risk of the physical cybersecurity infrastructure operational variety of methods, the tool of the method of the tool support one or more of the steps. National infrastructure risk management framework based for sector risk management shown in Figure 3. Risk management framework depicts an approach to understanding the managing of risk and invites the sector to identify with the access of the critical infrastructure, the asset system, and the network staying alive with the risk of the threats, vulnerability, consequence in order to determine the risk priorities by risk of the management activities. Each step of the risk management framework should be critically processed and applied with the informed the future assessment decision to improve the method and tools used. The size of the complexity of the openingness of the sector as well with the dynamic nature of the threat and the hazard creates the challenge of the risk management include the uncertainty associated with the risk of the transportation system, difficulties in predicting the likelihood of the consequence of the known risk, inestimable nature of the unknown threats, of the wide spectrum of the risk of the often require different assessment methods of the tools, different risk of the assessment approaches with the natural disaster and terrorism, verified preparedness, responsible capability, countermeasurement within the modes. Your risk management factors will assist with the resource of the manager security office of determine the priorities program for the reducing risk of the overall hazard risk management framework, physical and cyber human elements of critical infrastructure integral with the transportation operation when risk management activities may be repaired. May be applied information sharing among the sector partnership to each of the steps of the risk management framework and its common basis of the cohesive security and risk planning. Alright, 5.1.1, Sector Interdependency. Transportation, energy, communication, water describe the National Infrastructure and Protection Plan of 2013 lifeline function for the deemed essential for the operation of the most sectors. Transportation assets and services are important, but they expect for the security resilience of the other sector communities. The sector depends on the lifeline function for the other sector. For example, the maritime or transportation rely on the dam sector for the function of the lock of the dam of the river navigation rely on the information technology sector for the voice of the electronic data exchange related to the cargo passenger security. Example, the other sectors depending on the transportation security reliance is include the chemical commercial facility, the critical manufacturing, defense, and industrial plant bases in the energy sector rely on the transportation movement, the raw material food, feed and stock, and product. Commercial facilities, financial service sectors depending on the postal and shipping to move the essential paper paper transaction. Emergency service sector depends on the resilient transportation network to respond effectively to the emergency. Food and agriculture depend on the security of the truck, rail, and maritime shipments to protect the national food supply chain. Health and public health health sector depends on the transportation, particularly postal, shipping, service delivery with the medical and medicine, organ, and other circumstances. In addition, with the cross-sector dependency, the sector may be the particular attention with the interdependency among the transportation mode. For example, the bridges and tunnels provide the pathways of the pipeline mass transit with the railroads. In addition, with the cyber systems, such as the control of the system, data centers are shared between the multiple transportation entities. With the cyber attacks, the other events that disrupt these systems that could consequently critically infrastructure the owners and operators across the multiple modes. Further, commodities may be shipped through multiple modes, but depending on one another timely. For timely, secure deliveries to customers. These model interdependencies require special consideration of the political consequences, cascading effects, and incidents. 512 Cybersecurity. Cybersecurity risk of the growing, the evolving change of the sector, partnership, collaborative plan of the counter cybersecurity threat to the greatest extent possible. Cybersecurity efforts for the coordinated with the Department of Homeland Security and DOT encourages the unity effective of the cybersecurity initiative with a greater efficiency, evaluating the cyber threats and vulnerabilities consequences. The principal cybersecurity partnership with the form with the sector of the transportation sector of the cybersecurity working group, which includes the federal, local, tribal, and territorial government representative of the industrial private sector stakeholders of the TSSCWG buildings on Sector 2012 sector cybersecurity to manage the risk of retaining the enhancing your transportation system security working cybersecurity working group. Enhancing warning system, promoting voluntary, collaborative, sustaining community action. The sector's cybersecurity goals are defined in strategy are to maintain continuous cybersecurity awareness, improve the expanded voluntary participation in cybersecurity efforts, define the conceptual environment, and enhance the intelligence, security, information sharing with the ensure and sustain coordinate with the strategical implementation. In February 2013, Executive Order 1363-6 of the set forth in compliance with the draft of the involving the Cyber Authority with any other action for the other than direction of the National Institute standards to develop the cybersecurity framework. The National Institute standard and technology released 2014 and 2015. The Transportation Security Cybersecurity Work Group developed a distributed the transportation systems sector framework implementation guide to help the stakeholders assess and enhance their cybersecurity posture within the National Institute Standards Technology Cybersecurity Framework. The guidance include the information requirement that leverages ongoing with the Department of Homeland Security, the MPPD, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The Department of Homeland Security and Federal Bureau of Investigation have assisted 100 entities affected with the cybersecurity. They have discovered and shared hundreds of thousands of the indicated for the analysis of the cyber incidents, such analyzed to update the cyber threats profile and the fundamental with the area. The tactics must commonly imply with the game and the illicit assets of the network system. Vulnerability targeted system of the networks are most frequently exploited. Indicators of illicit cyber activities most often noted by the post-incident analysis where they are missed and disregarded. Protective measures must often found with the lacking of the absent, but they could have been the difference in line with the tactic of the measure for the defeat of the or mitigate. In response to Executive Order 1363-6, the sector assessed for the critical cybersecurity functions, services with the identified with the cyber dependent with the infrastructure greater risk for the subject matter with the expertise and participate with the cyber dependent with the infrastructure identification work group led by the Department of Homeland Security. Identify the transportation and West asset for the cybersecurity incident which could cause catastrophic results. Executive Order 1363-6 with the Director of the Department of Homeland Security establishment of the voluntary program to support the adoption of the National Institute of Security, Security and Standards and Technology framework by critical infrastructure owner operative of the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security Infrastructure Cybersecurity Volunteer Program to develop the guidance for the adoption of the National Institute Standard and Technology Cybersecurity Framework, Enhanced Cybersecurity Services Program, the Facility Voluntary Program of Department of Homeland Security Office Cybersecurity Communications is working and identify no-cost cybersecurity, no-cost cyber vulnerability assessment methodologies include cybersecurity evaluation program, cyber resiliency review process for the non-technical voluntary assessment with the organization measurement cybersecurity pod capabilities against 10 domains, cyber infrastructure survey tool, cybersecurity evaluation tool for the voluntary technical assessment of the system, the downloadable application organization, assist with the network infrastructure components for the support with the control system operations and processes. Congress is required by the Government Accounting Office to report the progress in implementing the voluntary adoption of the program, the co-site Site-specific agencies, sector-specific agencies contribute to the report extent to which of the same of the voluntary industrial representative. 2 have been prompted federal agencies and adopted sectors. 3 have protected against the cyber threats, and the reports are include the reasonable sector adopted close does not adopt to the National Institute of Science and Technology standards. All right, 513, research and development. Research and development is a critical developing stage of the technology risk mitigation, the method of the transportation system of the networks. Research must focus on the obstacle identification initiative, the analysis, capture of the insight with the development, the creative, the approach of the and issue resolution. Develop needs for the focus of the tools and methodology, practice for the efficiency, effective, the adaptive, of the diverse operation within the sector critical infrastructure, owner, operative, lead, the research development initiative, sometime with the coordinated with the private sector partner, the National Infrastructure Protection Plan 2013 encourages research and development collaboration to bring expertise, resources of the public and the private sector entities together with a common goal. For example, the U.S. Coast Guard is currently working on an electric charting company with the cooperative of the research of evaluating risk of the electronic navigation aids of the navigation. Your critical infrastructure security resilience plan, national research development plan is required by the president. President Policy Directive 21, submitted by the President of the February 2015, 5 overarching priorities with the intent of the research, development, investment, promote initiative, the guide research across the critical infrastructure communities, develop fundamental understanding of the critical infrastructure system and system dynamics, develop integrated, scalable, the risk assessment management approach, develop and integrate with the productive capability of technology method to secure the resilient infrastructure, harness the power of the data with the science, create unified, integrated, situational awareness, understand consequence of action, build across the cutting of the culture with the infrastructure, security, resilience, research, development, and development collaboration. The sector will consider the 5 priority areas of input for the planning efforts of the research development activity supporting implementation, national critical infrastructure security resilience national development plan. All right, 5.2, critical infrastructure national preparedness. The President Policy Directive 21 specifically required the aligning with the critical infrastructure security resilience of the personal President Policy Directive number 8, the National Response Framework, the National Disaster Recovery Framework defined the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Transportation shared responsibility, Federal Transportation National Preparedness. The transportation systems sector specific plan aligns with the transportation disaster preparedness through 5 national preparedness system mission areas. Protection. The protection mission area to apply with a steady state of the activities include the safety and security programs that aim at the reduce the managing of the risk of the critical transportation infrastructure and the non-terrorist event of the law enforcement authorities, the emergency responder responsible for preserving public safety, securing criminal scenes, mitigating, threatening, and preserving evidence of identifying the arresting suspect. Transportation stakeholder, particularly with that critical to the infrastructure owner and operative that has the responsibility to ensure the safety of the security of the transportation infrastructure they operate. Preventive. The preventive mission area that apply with the specifically activity taken in response to an imminent terrorist act. Although the primary law enforcement mission sector stakeholders must be prepared to take an additional precautions step with the assist law enforcement is recover the information sharing critical to success of the mission and terrorist attack of the law with enforcing authority of the emergency response, the responsible for preserving public safety, securing crime scene, mitigating threat, preserving evidence, identifying the arresting suspect. Mitigation mission areas are reduced the consequence of the accident, incident with identifying best practices as well as conduct codes and standards that make the transportation infrastructure more resilient. The mitigation activities conclude building standards that enhance resilience, identifying the risk, ensure the additional protection must apply with the reduce the vulnerability, taking action, reduce the consequence of the incident that may occur. Mitigation activity arguably best apply with the planning stage of the infrastructure investment, but they can also be as complementary efforts of the protection measure that already undertaken. The properly applied mitigation efforts can reduce the vulnerability consequence of the incident while making response to the recovery efforts easier. Our response. The response mission area coordinates all the response action during the disaster, save the life of the property risk, the form of the National Incident Management System, and prescribe the Homeland Security President Directive 5, Management of the Domestic Incidents, and President Policy Directive 8, with the addition of the numerous of the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Transportation, component agencies have specific statutory responsibility for response to recovery acts during the incident response, transportation capability, support, evacuation, rescue, medical care, and incident management. The recovery mission area for the guidelines long-term recovery following the incident. When the recovery phase begins with the efforts of restoring transportation infrastructure, operating, initiating transportation infrastructure, critical facilitating response efforts, and repair and restoration for supplying community need during recovery efforts. And 6, measuring effectiveness.